Germany delivers advanced Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Largest strike in decades brings Germany to a standstill. Food pods and vertical farming could help us grow crops on Mars. Hong Kongers hold first protest in years under strict rules. OneWeb launch completes space internet project. Partial clock change causes confusion in Lebanon. Netanyahu sparking mass protests by sacking defense minister. Some Florida parents think the statue of David is porn.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's Tuesday, March 28th, and here are your top stories. On Monday, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Germany has delivered promised Leopard battle tanks to Ukraine. Scholz also said the German-made battle tanks were very modern. Scholz made the announcement at a press conference with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte in Rotterdam in response to a report in news outlet Spiegel. The Spiegel report said Berlin had delivered 18 of the advanced Leopards, with the last of the tanks having left Germany at the end of last week, before being handed over to Ukraine at the border.
Germany's Der Spiegel magazine is reporting that Berlin has delivered 18 long-awaited Leopard 2 battle tanks to Ukraine.
Germany's defense ministry later confirmed the 18 Leopard deliveries, along with 2 armored Bofel tank recovery vehicles. About 40 Marder infantry fighting vehicles have also arrived in Ukraine. The media reported the U.S. said at the same time it would send advanced American Abrams tanks. Ukrainian soldiers were trained on the 2A6S, the most advanced of the Leopard models, on German military bases. They have also trained on Spanish bases.
Airports as well as bus and train stations across Germany were at a standstill on Monday, causing disruption for millions at the start of the working week during one of the largest walkouts in decades. Terminals were largely deserted as airports, including 2 of Germany's largest in Munich and Frankfurt, suspended flights. Rail services were canceled by railway operator Deutsche Bahn. The 24-hour strikes were called by the Verdi Trade Union and Railway and Transport Union EVG.
It's in this hotel in Potsdam behind me where the critical wage talks are taking place.
Striking workers wearing yellow or red high-visibility jackets blew horns, sirens and whistles, held up banners and waved flags during protests. The Airports Association estimated that 380,000 air passengers were affected. In Frankfurt alone, almost 1,200 flights for 160,000 passengers were cancelled and stranded travelers slept on benches. In Cologne, the lack of city trains prompted a dash for taxis. Employees on strike are pressing for higher wages to blunt the effects of inflation, which reached 9.3% in February.
A startup called Interstellar Lab, a Paris and Los Angeles-based company, has designed a controlled environment capsule system that could one day allow crops to be grown in space. Its nutritional closed-loop eco-unit system, or Nucleus, was among the winners of Phase 1 of NASA's Deep Space Food Challenge. Nucleus is moving now to a lab in Cape Canaveral, Florida, to participate in the challenge's final phase, with the winners announced in April.
Our mission on Earth is to protect life. So we designed system, farming solution, so plants can grow in a more sustainable way.
Nucleus is a modular structure composed of 9 cube capsules designed to provide a nutritious diet for 4 astronauts for the duration of a 2-year mission. CEO Barbara Belvisi says it is capable of producing fresh microgreens, vegetables, mushrooms, and even edible insects. Inside the Nucleus capsule cubes, plants are grown in vertical crop systems, the method many scientists consider to be the best option for Martian agriculture. Should it work, NASA plans to have boots on the red planet in the 2030s.
Hong Kong held its first authorized protest Sunday since the lifting of major COVID-19 restrictions under unprecedentedly strict rules, including wearing a number badge around their necks for security reasons. Sunday's demonstration was to protest against the proposed reclamation and construction of rubbish processing facilities. Organizers had to comply with police requirements, such as taking measures to ensure the number of participants would not exceed the expected turnout of 100 people.
疫情之後第一次成功舉辦嘅遊行，人數有限制，出席嘅亦都要掛上識別牌。
On Sunday, about 80 people expressed their opposition to the plans in Sung Kwan O, a residential and industrial area. The organizer said they had to walk in a cordoned-off moving line in the rain amid heavy police presence. In granting its approval, police also requested that organizers ensure there would not be any acts that might endanger national security, including displaying anything seditious. Organizers said demonstrators had communicated with police on their promotional materials and slogans.
Hello, I'm Peggy. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It is Monday, July 25th, and here are your top stories. Bloomberg reported that Australia is on high alert for foot-and-mouth disease in its cattle herds after traces of...
用心生活，享受自由，学习，走自己的路。FUNDAY 英语。
London-based company OneWeb has launched a final set of satellites it needs to deliver a broadband internet connection anywhere on Earth. It would take some months for Sunday's batch of satellites to be tested and to get into the right part of the sky at an altitude of 1,200 kilometers. But when they're in position, OneWeb will have the facility to deliver a global communications service, the only other organization in the world flying more satellites in space today, and is the Starlink system operated by Elon Musk.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The 36 satellites went up on an Indian LVM-3 rocket from the Sriharikota spaceport in Andhra Pradesh. Sunday's launch increased the number of OneWeb satellites in orbit from 582 to 618. Unlike the Starlink network, OneWeb is not selling broadband connections directly to the individual user. Its clients, principally, are the telecom companies that provide internet service or employ the additional connectivity to supplement, or expand, the infrastructure in their mobile phone networks.
People in Lebanon have woken up in two rival time zones this morning amid a row between political and religious authorities over when clocks should go forward. Caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati announced that daylight saving would begin at the end of Ramadan next month, allowing Muslims to break their daily fast earlier. But Christian authorities said they would change the clocks on the last Sunday in March, which happens most years. Many businesses have followed suit.
Here, the government has made a last-minute decision to delay the start of daylight savings time. It will be practiced from a month later now.
Middle East Airlines, the national carrier, decided on a compromise. It said its clocks and other devices would stay in wintertime, but its flight times would be adjusted to avoid disrupting international schedules. There was also confusion for users of mobile phones and other electronic devices that automatically switched to daylight saving time, as many operators were not notified of the delay in time. Two news channels, LBCI and MTV, moved their clocks forward early on Sunday as well.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday sacked Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, triggering mass protests, a day after Gallant broke ranks with the government and urged a halt to a highly contested plan to overhaul the judicial system. As news of the dismissal spread, tens of thousands of protesters, many waving blue and white Israeli flags, took to the streets late at night across the country. Crowds gathered outside Netanyahu's home in Jerusalem, at one point breaching a security cordon.
The turmoil comes at a key moment in the passage of the legislation, with a bill giving the executive more control over the appointment of judges expected to be brought for ratification this week in the Knesset. Netanyahu, on trial on corruption charges that he denies, has vowed to continue with a project he says is needed to rein in activist judges. At least 3 Likud ministers said publicly that it was time to re-evaluate their strategy and they would support halting the legislation if Netanyahu decided to do so.
The Florence Museum housing Michelangelos Renaissance masterpiece David invited parents and students from a Florida charter school to visit after complaints about a lesson featuring the statue forced the principal to resign. Florence Mayor Dario Nadella tweeted an invitation for the principal to visit so he could personally honor the statue. Nadella said confusing art with pornography was ridiculous. Principal Hope Karaskila said Sunday that she's very honored by the invitations to Italy and she may accept.
Towers over the main square. Michelangelos David originally stood here. This is a copy.
Tallahassee Classical is a Florida charter school. The school has a policy requiring parents to be notified in advance about controversial topics being taught. Last week, after the principal showed an image of David to a 6th grade art class, the board of the school pressured her to resign after 3 parents complained because they weren't notified in advance that a nude would be shown, while a parent called the iconic statue pornographic. Michelangelo Buonarroti sculpted the David between 1501 to 1504.
FUNDAY News will help you sharpen your English skills and keep you informed about international current events. If you want to know more about our other programs and keep learning about the world's most important topics in English, please click the link in the description below to join FUNDAY for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.